everybody, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about Boundaries for Leaders by Henry Cloud. Let's get to it. Okay, so this book is specifically talking about like the people side of leadership. So like if you are the kind of person that you always have a great plan and you know how to execute it and get results and all that jazz, but you're struggling to know like how do I get people to work on it too, this is the book for you. First thing this book talks about is to remember that as a leader, you are ridiculously in charge. And he uses that phrase specifically to help remind us that as a leader, we get what we create and what we allow. So if we allow certain kinds of behaviors and certain kinds of thinking and we create a sort of environment that's what we're going to get, right? As a leader, we can change that environment and we can change what we allow. First thing that Dr. Henry Cloud talks about is brain functions and how a brain functions when it's doing its best. And there's three things to remember: attention, inhibition, and working memory. So what those means is attention, paying attention. The brain needs to understand what it has to pay attention to. So as a driver, you've got to pay attention to the road. If you're paying attention to your phone, then you're not as good as a driver. So you have to understand what you're paying attention to. And as a leader, you have to remind your organization what it is they need to pay attention to. Sometimes that's a daily or maybe even a weekly, but it definitely has to be frequent. Inhibition. That is blocking what's not important, right? So don't text while you drive, turn off notifications, those things. In order to pay attention to what is important, you need to remind people what's not important. And then working memory. We need to keep relevant information in front of our minds at all times. So after brain functions comes the emotional climate that you as a leader create. And a negative emotional climate where people are humiliated or they're called stupid or they feel like they're not appreciated can really diminish the amount of productivity you can get. So as a leader, you need to remember that these are people we're working with and people love being appreciated and being in an environment that is supportive, as well as being driven. So you don't have to be a wishy-washy softie in order to get this kind of emotional climate, but just remember to be kind to people even while you're being firm. There's no need to humiliate, name call, degrade, or any sorts of things to those that you're working with. Something interesting that the book talked about was prioritize making connections with those that you lead and between your people that you're leading. So what I mean by that is like, make sure that you connect with the people that are following you. Make sure that you come to know them, like get to know their names as much as possible, get to know who they are, find some way, some connection, something that y'all have in common with each other, and then help each of your team members to also make and find connections with each other. It's always easier to work as a team when you feel connected and supported, and it's always harder when you feel isolated and alone. So what he means by that is like negative thinking, which means, oh, it's impossible, oh, that can't be done, oh, we can't do that, and blah, 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 blah. That's not helpful. That's going to keep you from actually achieving great things. Now, here's a side note. Yes, you want to be realistic, but there's a way to do that in a positive manner. Like if someone presented an idea, you can say, that's awesome, that's a great idea. Here are some things that I can see that would keep that idea from happening, right? You can still be realistic, like understanding, okay, here's the obstacles that might keep that from being challenging, but then you can also say, okay, what solutions can we find to overcome those road blockages, or what can we do to prevent them? And then move forward with whatever plan is the best plan. I have a favorite quote that says, our thoughts become our words become our actions become our habits, and our habits become our character. So if whatever we start here is going to affect everything else that we do. So if we have positive thinking and think we can do even the impossible, then we're going to start doing the impossible. And then in connection with that positive thinking, there are 3 P's, the book that Dr. Henry Cloud lays out in his book, and they are personal, pervasive, and permanent. So this is relating to like when a mistake happens or something didn't go quite right. Oftentimes make it personal. They're like, oh, I must be a bad person. Then they make it pervasive. So instead of just like, I messed up once, it's like, oh, I must be a bad person, so I'll always mess up. And then permanent, meaning I can never do anything right, which is going to stop you from being productive. Those kinds of thoughts are going to keep you from doing the kinds of things that you as a leader and your team can accomplish. So in order to stop those kinds of thoughts, you need to remember what you can control and focus on that. Make a list. Make a list of everything you can't. Make a list of everything you can't control. Make a list of everything you can control and focus on that list. And you'll start seeing changes happening as you focus on the things you can control. And make sure to always observe, log, and refute. So basically, observe those personal, pervasive, permanent thoughts. Write them down and then refute them. Meaning like, okay, this is how that's not true, and I'm going to do better than that because I can. And the key that holds all of this together, the key that holds leaderships together and teams together is trust. Without trust, your team can't work together and your team can't follow you. Your team has to trust each other and you in order to get all of this done. If there's no trust, then society breaks down. Trust is the most important thing. So you want to make sure that you're building your trust. And then lastly, as a leader, always be open to feedback. If you're not open to feedback and open to change and to improve, then you're stuck or you're going backwards. As a leader, even you aren't perfect. And sometimes your teammates can see things better about yourself than you can, or maybe people from the outside can see things better than you can. And so being open to feedback and open to improvement and to change can really affect your leadership and your goals and the environment that you create for the better. Always make sure that you ask the right people for the right kinds of advice. You can't do everything and you don't want to be a people pleaser, but certainly seeking out feedback from those whom you feel would be able to help you improve to become your best self and a better leader. Positive, 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 positive. So that's what I got from the book Boundaries for Leadership by Dr. Henry Cloud. I highly encourage you to read it if you feel like this is something that can help improve your ability to lead yourself, your family, a group, work, whatever it is. Do awesome things, leaders. Don't forget to accomplish the impossible and do great things.